No matter what you are facing, the Lord is with you through it all. Are you facing a health crisis? Music artist Robby McGee, member of Midsouth Band, collapsed on a boat after scuba diving, and the next thing he remembered hearing from the doctors was the possibility of never walking again. This is his story. This is today's Nashville. This is faith. Robby, what a blessing to sit down with you. Welcome to today's Nashville.
Well, thank you. I'm glad for the invitation, and thank you for that.
Well, you know, we had so much fun at your concert the other day. Love your music.
Thank you so much.
And you have such a powerful story of faith. And when I heard it, I had to invite you to the show because I think so many people are going to be inspired by your story. Midsouth Band.
Yes.
Love it. When did you start?
So Midsouth Band actually started as Midsouth Boys back in the early 80s, and they hired me to play piano. And so after playing piano for a few years, the other gentlemen in the group, they started leaving one by one, and we hired Bobby, so it was me and Bobby. My brother had actually sang bass. It was a quartet. My brother decided to leave, and so we needed to find another vocalist, and we tried to find some and just really couldn't find the right bass vocalist. I was raised in Dallas, Texas, born and raised in Texas, and I was raised on people like the Gatlin brothers, and Alabama had come along, and I'm like, man, I would really love to do more of a country trio sounding group.
How old were you at this time?
So at this time I would have been 22.
Okay.
Yeah, 22 years old. So we hired another young man to sing baritone, whose name was Tony Turner. So it was me and Bobby and Tony, but there wasn't anyone writing what I would call Christian country music at the time. So that was really what got me to writing as well. It was really out of necessity that I started writing. And if you heard some of my earlier songs, you would know that it was really out of necessity. I was an extreme novice when I got started writing, but nonetheless, God blessed that. And I approached the owners of the group at that time and said, hey, would you be interested in selling the band? And they said yes. So I purchased the band in my early 20s, and that was really where Mid-South got launched into what I would call the Christian country music scene that really was non-existent at the time.
Did you always know that that's what you wanted to do?
I really didn't. I wanted to be a computer programmer is what my intent was, and really that's what I was going to school for. However, my dad loved to sing, and he birthed in me a love for singing and playing the piano at a really early age. And since I was the youngest, I was always the one that was singing the high part. So Dad taught me to sing, the parts as well. And so I really had a love for music. It was always part of our family. My dad would gather us around the piano, and we would all as a family sing on family vacations. We would be going down the road, and we would all start singing different songs. My dad loved the Oak Ridge Boys. He loved the Gatlin Brothers. He loved John Denver. So I kind of grew up singing some of those songs. So that was really where the love of music came from, but I didn't really know people other than what I would call mega stars. I didn't really know that there was an entry level for people to get started until my brother started singing bass for the group, and then they asked me to come and fill in playing the piano, and subsequently asked me to join. So that changed the trajectory of really my life.
Now, were you a church-going family?
We were. I was born and raised in church. I don't ever remember not being in church. So even the hymns were also a part of it. My mom's favorite was "What a Friend We Have in Jesus." So I had to, learn how to play that. They started teaching me piano when I was 6 years old.
6 years.
And I took lessons until I was 12. I wanted to quit taking lessons. And my mom kind of knew that. You're 12 years old. It's like, it's boring. You're playing hymns and you're playing some ragtime and some classical music. And my mom, I'll credit her because she recognized that. And I told her I wanted to quit playing. Well, one day she brought home a songbook, and it was the Eagles' greatest hits.
Oh, okay.
And I opened it up and started playing Desperado. And from that point on, I was hooked to more popular music and hearing it on the radio and playing it by ear. And so I credit Mom for keeping me going and encouraging me to play.
So you bought the band. You're
Yes.
in your early 20s. What happened after that?
So I started writing music, and we came to Nashville and started recording some projects and started having some success. Our very first song was a song called Guilty of Loving Me that I had written, and it got on the gospel music charts. And then from then on, it was just, it wasn't overnight, but things began to build. And we began to have more success with my songwriting, more success with the band, more success on a national level. We were mainly regional in Texas and Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. So the band began to expand. We began to have a lot more success and opportunities to travel on a national basis as time went by.
So were you living still in Texas, or did you move here to Nashville?
Initially, the band was out of Arkansas. So we were just south of Little Rock, Arkansas, in a little town called Sheridan. But because we began to have so many different opportunities, and it seemed like every time we left to play, we were driving through Nashville, Tennessee. And Nashville was where the music was. So we made a decision, you know what, we're going to relocate our families, the band, we're going to relocate everything to Nashville, Tennessee. So that was actually in 1989-90 was when that transition happened.
When did you know that Mid-South is like, okay, we're going to stay with it. This is what I'm supposed to do. We're going to keep going.
That moment came for me after I'd had an accident. And right before that accident, Word Records, they approached us and said, we believe in you guys. And we would like to talk to y'all about signing you to a recording agreement. So when John Mays at Word Records called and said that, I'm like, you know what? I believe that this is something that will help us reach a broader audience and reach a lot of people, with the message of our music. So I think that was the pivotal moment.
And then you went scuba diving.
I did.
And we're going to talk about how that accident changed your whole life and how you're reaching millions now with your testimony, your music, and your life when we come back. Robby, you're having great success. You're newly married. When did you get married?
I got married in August of 1985.
And then you decided to go scuba diving.
I did. So between 85 and 88, the band really had success. And Word Records had offered us a recording agreement, which was a really big deal. They were the largest Christian music record group back in that time. And so we had just finished up a concert in Des Moines, Illinois at the State Fair with actually Willie Nelson. And I'm like, we're gonna take a week off. So my wife and I decided to go to Florida and just with a couple of friends and spend some time at the beach and just have some fun. Well, I'd been certified as a scuba diver back when I was around 14 years old. So I'd been scuba diving for a while, so we decided, hey, let's go out and go scuba diving. And little did I know that that day would pretty much change, everything for me. So we went out scuba diving, and we were on a reef, scuba diving about an hour and a half out in the ocean, Panama City, Florida. And I noticed when I was trying to get back onto the boat, I felt a little numb in the lower part of my body. And I had to get the person behind me to help pull my flippers off. Well, subsequently, I climbed onto the boat with some help. And immediately when I got onto the boat, I became paralyzed from the chest down and didn't really know what was going on. As quickly as they could, they went back to the shore. And there was an ambulance that met me there. And I don't remember a lot of what was going on during that hour and a half. They put oxygen on me, and I was in and out, I guess. And so they took me to the hospital. And initially they said, hey, everything is going to be all right. You know, within just a couple of days, you've just had, you know, some decompression sickness, but you're going to be okay. Well, they took me in this decompression chamber, which was a lot of people think of a hyperbaric chamber as a small little tube. Well, this one was huge. It was about 5 foot in diameter, and it was about 6 foot long and about 10 foot wide, so a doctor could be in there with me. And they took me down in there for 54 hours the first time, and I expected to see some change. There was no change.
How many days after the accident right away did they take you into?
Oh, for sure. Okay. As soon as I got to the hospital, they recognized it was severe enough that it was very critical they get me in this decompression chamber immediately. So within a couple hours, they had put me in that chamber. And I stayed in there for 54 hours the first time, and there was no progress whatsoever. And so they decided that they were going to take me down into this decompression chamber for 5 hours a day for another 2 weeks.
What does the decompression chamber do to your?
So it takes your body back down below sea level.
Oh, okay.
And so about 60 foot below sea level, and then they make you breathe 100% pure oxygen into your lungs to try to regenerate and calm the nervous system down. So it's supposed to make the swelling go down, and it's supposed to regenerate the nerves that maybe had suffered any damage during the process. So that was what the intent of it was. About 3 days into it, it wasn't working for me. I was very labored in my breathing. I was still paralyzed from the chest down. And I finally looked at the doctors and I said, is there any way I can get some Christian music piped down into this decompression chamber? And he said, let me see what I can do. So the next day, they said, yeah, well, we figured it out. We've got a radio station we found. So they turned it on. They started playing the music. And I like to tell the story. One of the first songs that came on was a song that I had written in 1987. And it was called There's a Resting Place in Jesus. And little did I know that when I wrote that song in 87, God was going to use it to minister to me that day. And the song says there's a resting place in Jesus. When your body's weak and your spirit's tired, there's comfort in his arms. There's not a more peaceful, easy feeling than the rest assured in my Savior's loving arms. And I heard that. It brought peace to me. I looked at the doctor and I said, I wrote that song. And the doctor smiled at me and he said, you know, people hallucinate when they're down in this chamber.
Did he know you were a singer and a songwriter?
Didn't. Well, he didn't, not till that point. Yeah. So it was kind of a funny moment.
What did you say? No, really, I did.
I did. I said, really, I wrote that song. And I got my wife, Vanessa, to vouch for me. And so yeah, it was a funny moment.
What was she going through at this time?
At this particular time, I think she was okay because we didn't really know the severity of what was going on, because I spent another 2 weeks there, and finally the doctor said, hey, we can't do anything else for you. We're going to have to fly you back to Little Rock, Arkansas and check you in a rehab hospital. So they did that. They flew me back to Arkansas, and even in the rehab hospital, I thought, I'm going to be in here and everything's going to be okay. Within, a few weeks, I'm going to learn to walk again. And after a couple of weeks in the rehab hospital, they said, look, as far as you being able to walk again, sing again, play the piano again, or go back on the road, or for you and your wife to be able to have children together, we don't know that that's something that's going to happen for you. And that was when reality began to come in, that, wow, everything that I've worked for up to this point in my life, I felt like it was being stripped away. And that was the toughest moment because I'd prayed, for 4 months. We're in the hospital and I'm praying and people are coming and praying for me and encouraging me. And finally one night in the hospital, I'm like, God, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, but you're not really doing a good job here at being God. And, I was angry. I was frustrated. But God can handle our anger and he can handle our frustrations. It's, some people say, I can't believe you told God he wasn't doing a good job. And I'm like, well, I didn't feel like he was, But God really spoke peace to me. Nothing changed that night when I got angry. Nothing changed, but God spoke peace. And it was the first time in my life I ever experienced the peace that passes all understanding. And I knew at that moment that God had it and everything was going to be all right.
He had it under control. We're going to talk about where he took you after that and where he's taking you next when we come back. Robby, you're in rehab.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what is going to happen. What's going through your mind?
So that night that I prayed and I really felt God give me that peace that passes all understanding. I also felt in my spirit that he was saying, look, whatever you need to do in order to fulfill my purpose and plan for your life, I'm going to make sure that happens. If you need to walk, you'll walk. If you need to sing, you'll sing. If you need to play, you'll play. If you and your wife need to have kids, you'll have kids. Whatever you need, if you'll just trust me, I'll make sure that it happens. And I think the most important thing to me in my life was knowing that God had a purpose and plan for me. And even if it was different than what I had been doing or what I saw, that he did have a purpose and a plan and he was going to make sure that I was able to accomplish that. And that was really what I needed. God knows what we need at different times of our life. And so less than a year from when that happened, I went back on the road. And I started singing and I started playing again with a band. I started walking again. And my wife and I, we had our first child who has now given us 4 amazing grandchildren.
And I saw him the other night playing the drums.
Yeah. So God was faithful to restore all of those things that I needed to be able to do in order to continue doing what God wanted me to do and fulfill that plan.
Did your career just take off again, or did you have to go back and kind of start over, or did God just lead you where you are today?
The career continued to grow from that point. There was really no moving backwards. It didn't cause us to suffer any as far as the popularity of the group went. Actually, I called, so John Mays was our A&R director at Word Records. I called him when I was in the rehab hospital because they had offered us the contract, we hadn't signed it yet. And I told John, look, I understand if you don't want to sign us because of what's happened to me. And he goes, are you kidding me? He goes, you're going to be all right. And so he was very encouraging. As soon as I got out of the hospital, we signed that agreement. And we went straight into the recording studio. So from that moment, our music began to become popular, not just in the United States, but in different parts of the world. And we were doing videos. They were featuring them on CMT. And we were one of the few Christian artists that were doing, concept videos, really quality concept videos at the time. So it really took off. Yeah.
And you wrote a song while you were in rehab.
I did. It was a song called Don't Give In, and Word heard it and wanted to put it on our first project. I never intended for it to be on a project. I wrote it for me.
What was it about?
So it says life will sometimes throw you curves, maybe more than you think you deserve. And many times you feel like giving in. You search for answers, but they're hard to find. You're feeling weaker all of the time, but don't give up. He's able to see you through. Don't give in. Keep on trusting the Lord. Don't give in. Keep standing on His word. Don't give in no matter how weak you feel. When it seems as if you just can't win, keep the faith, don't give up, don't give in. And so they heard the song and they're like, that's a song that, even though you wrote it for you, everybody can relate to that song. So
Did you ever think about giving up when you were going through all this?
I did. I still think about it sometimes. Because, you know, there's still things that happen, you know, through my accident. You know, I still walk with forearm crutches, and there's still some pain involved, you know, at different times. And so even though God worked out a lot of miracles for me, it's a roller coaster ride. You know, there's still things that I pray about. I've been praying about for over 30 years that I haven't seen come to pass. So, you know, I celebrate the victories, but, you know, there's still life that happens that we have to work through the messiness of.
That's so true. You've written a lot of songs that are special to your heart. What are some other songs that you've written?
So one of them is Without You, I Haven't Got a Prayer. And it was the one that they decided to not just release to Christian music, but they released it to pop radio. And it climbed on the Billboard charts, and it ended up in the mid-20s between, I think, Madonna and Stevie Wonder. So it was a real odd place for us to end up, but God used it for a lot of people. Matter of fact, a few years ago, while we were on the road, Bobby, one of the lead singers in the band, someone came up to him and said, that song saved my life. And they're, what do you mean? And he said, well, he goes, I loved pop music, but my life, I'd lost everything. I lost my family, I lost my wife, I lost my job, and I wanted to end my life. And he said, so I drove to the top of a mountain in the Virginias. And he said, I had fully planned to just drive off a cliff. And he said, but I thought I'm going to go out with a blaze of glory. I turned on my favorite pop radio station, and that song came on. And he said, I began to listen to it. I'm like, I've never heard that song before. And he goes, I listened to that song all the way through. And he said, I gave my heart and life to God there on that mountain and put it in reverse and turned around. He said, I'm still living today because of that. So yeah, that's a song that has really ministered to and helped a lot of people. And most recently, we just put out a new project this past October, and it's called Things I'd Tell a Younger Me is the name of the project. Well, on that, there is a song called When Miracles Don't Come. And I was talking to you a little bit about that a moment ago, because like I said, for 30 years, I've been praying for certain things to happen. And man, the song says, sometimes I question why. Sometimes I hit my knees. Sometimes I sit and cry. Sometimes I wonder, is it me? Sometimes I doubt my faith. So it talks about all these things that we go through, all these emotions that we go through when we're praying for something, but that miracle hasn't come yet. And I'm like, what do we do in that moment? And I told my wife, I said, I really want to write a song about what you do. And the song says we go through all those emotions I mentioned a moment ago. But it says at the end of the day, you have to land on, but deep inside, I know that God is good and hope is never gone. So I keep holding on, expecting miracles when miracles don't come. And so that song, it's funny. That's another song I wrote for me because of what I was feeling, because of what I was going through. And one thing that I have learned, if I look back at a 25-year-old Robby writing, and then I look at a 60-year-old Robby writing, it's from a different perspective. And so I realize that if I am going through that and I'm expecting miracles and praying and haven't seen them for years, there's a lot of other people who have been praying for things and haven't seen them come to pass.
A lot of people.
And so, what do you do? And so I wrote that song to encourage myself, but also to give hope to those people who have been expecting a miracle and it hasn't come, and hopefully to help them keep standing and trusting in God in the process.
I think you're doing it. And with your music, Midsouth band music. Robby, thank you so much for sharing your life, your ministry, your heart.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
My friend, are you searching for a miracle? Have you been praying for years and years with no answer? Just remember that God is faithful. He is sovereign. He knows what He's doing. Let Him take control. This is today's Nashville. This is faith.
Cornerstone Television wishes to thank all our faithful viewers whose consistent prayers and financial support have made this program possible.